Hello fellow travelers and welcome back to our Big's Adventure. My name is Cynthia and today we're going to be canning Lazy Man cabbage roll soup for my prepper pantry. That's right, meals in a jar is what I'm going for. We're already in full swing. I've got sausage going, I've got some tomatoes from the garden on boil, I've got meat thawing. So if you're ready, press the like button and let's get to work. I have 4 rolls of sausage in the fry pan, just getting nice and browned. I have this ground beef that will need to get browned up next. I have all of this garlic that was in my freezer. I'm gonna use that today. This is 2 cabbages that I've already cut up. I've got my other 2 over here. They're a little smaller. I've got a couple of onions. I have a bag of onions, so I'm just gonna make a huge pot of cabbage roll soup. These are tomatoes that I blanched and froze out of my garden, so I will be pureeing these and putting them in a jar. The first round of sausage is out, and well, the only round of sausage is out, and the first round of hamburger is going in. I'm gonna put onion and salt and pepper and garlic in here. Here's all the garlic from my freezer. That's all gonna go in my mix. I've got onions ready to go and all my cabbage is cut. Tomatoes are thawed almost. So in a few minutes, I'm gonna start my tomato sauce. This cabbage roll soup is an easy prepper pantry meal. I love to pressure can cabbage soup. You can see here I have a bag. I'm putting all of my ends in that. Next week I'm going to get that turkey out of my freezer and make a beautiful bone broth. So I'm saving all of my scraps. So here's the authentic moment of canning. It gets messy. It gets super messy. So all of my tomatoes, these are all from my garden, are in this pot. I have blanched and pureed them, and I actually left the skins on. I'm gonna pressure can this at 90 minutes. I can't see where botulism is gonna grow in a pureed tomato skin. I've got a ton of onions. The garlic is actually already in with the tomatoes. And I'm going to put probably 7 or 8 beef bouillon cubes in here. My first round of beef is coming along nicely. I'm not really gonna worry too much about the doneness of the beef because this is actually going to get pressure canned, and so it'll be exposed to heat for 90 minutes at 10 pounds of pressure because I am almost at sea level. I'm in Florida, so we don't really have elevation. So I just really want to do this to get most of the grease out of it and get the onions maybe a little soft to get some flavor. A lot of folks use gluten-heavy ingredients in their prepper pantries. I have approximately $30 worth of ingredients invested. I added 2 extra cans of crushed tomatoes because I thought my mixture was a little thick. And I'm just incorporating everything into the roaster now. I have it turned up to 450 degrees and I left it on for approximately 30 minutes. Everything is in the roaster. I hadn't originally planned to use the roaster, but I'm glad I cracked it out. What I want is I want the cabbage to wilt down just a little bit so I can cram more in the jars before I start canning. So there it is, and it's bubbling. I have this thing cranked to 450. We're gonna let that sit while I clean up this mess. Yikes. Canning on a large scale is not for the weak of heart. My birds, every time I talk, they go crazy. We're ready to start canning. These jars are clean. I don't sterilize jars prior to pressure canning. It's not necessary. If you want to do that and you think that's safe for your family, you do whatever you want, but I don't happen to. These are nice and clean, and so this is warm. It's not super hot. I let it cool down a little bit. The cabbage is wilted just like I wanted it. There's plenty of juice in here. Very excited about that. So let's fill the jars. This is my favorite part of canning. I love to fill the jars. It makes me super happy. I'm using the end of a wooden spoon to make sure all the air bubbles are out of my jars. Never use a metal implement to debubble your jars. You're always going to want to use a plastic or wood. Next, we're going to wipe our rims with some vinegar. The meat and cabbage, you could see me like stuffing it down to make sure all the air bubbles were out. We're going to wipe our rims with vinegar next. That ensures that our rims are super clean and that there's no grease or germs or anything like that on the outside of the jar, on the rim. And with the new lids, you do not need to boil or sterilize those lids. Every canner is different, and you may say, well, my grandmama said you have to boil those for 5 minutes and all that. Do what's best for your family. I've been canning for a really long time, and no one in my family has ever gotten sick. So there's no rice in this cabbage roll soup. Some people feel comfortable canning rice. I don't. I don't think that you should can rice or flour or anything like that, because there is a danger of botulism. And I understand that you can buy noodles and rice and grains in cans that are from the store, like on the shelf at Walmart. But that's a commercial cannery, and they have access to temperatures that I can't achieve at home. These have about an inch of headspace. That may not be necessary to do that whole inch, but that's how I've always done it. I leave a nice inch of headspace. These have all had the air bubbles moved out. I will say canning is messy. You have to want to do this. But since I want to do it, I'm gonna do it. I like having meals on the shelf. For me, it is insurance. These are super packed with meat and less cabbage. We grow a lot of our own greens here on our little homestead, so I will be able to supplement some greens in here if I need to, and I will make a pot of rice the day that I serve this and serve it over rice if I feel that that's what we're gonna do that day. Let's get these in the canner. This is my All-American pressure canner. I have had this for, oh my gosh, since 2011, I believe, so 10 years. I have canned so much stuff with this canner, and it looks huge, and it is huge, and it's heavy, and it looks really scary, but I promise you, you can pressure can if you want to. This is the Cadillac of pressure canners. You can get a pressure canner at Walmart, a Presto, for about $100. This one was $250 10 years ago. I think they're up to $350 or $300 now. We're gonna make sure that our rings are finger tight. So that means that they are tight and then just a little bit more tight. Not too tight, your lids will buckle. Not too loose, you'll get spillage in your jar once your food comes up to pressure. There's my cabbage rolls in. They're all tucked in. There's 7 of them in there. I think my water is a touch high. I'm gonna actually take out some of that water. It needs to be about 2/3 of the way up the jar, and I feel like that's more like half. So I'm gonna take out some of that water and get the lid put on. There we go. I feel like this water level is perfect now. Got my lid here. We're gonna check real quick. Can I see daylight through my vent hole? Yes, I can. So I have my arrow lined up with the dent. And everybody has one of those stories about how their great-grandma or their grandma blew the lid off the top of the canner and it blew a hole in the ceiling and it made a huge mess and exploded everywhere. Or, you know, my auntie so-and-so would can and then she never did it again after that or whatever. The new modern canners have a blow-off valve, so if things happen to go awry inside the canner, it actually has a safety feature where it'll pop off and then, you know. But like I said, I've been doing this a long time, so trust me, we're good. Okay, all of my Knobs are tight. My pressure gauge is working. We're gonna wait for this to start doing what's called venting. So the vent is going to vent steam up for approximately 7 minutes. We'll put the weight on and then the magic will start. There is still half of the roaster worth of cabbage rolls left, so I'm gonna take this out of the roaster and do round 2 tomorrow. This is why I do not do big canning projects unless I have an extra day off, because this is gonna be a lot. Those quart jars need to go for 90 minutes, and then the cool down, I probably won't be able to touch that canner until tonight. Okay, here we go. We've been venting for approximately 7 minutes. We got about 30 seconds left. You can see steam is coming through the vent pipe. You can hear the jars bubbling. We haven't built up any pressure yet, but that's okay. That's perfectly normal. I have my weight right here, and we're gonna use 10 pounds of pressure. There we go. 4, 3, 2, 1. So you pop your vent on, and then we're gonna wait for this to come up to pressure. And it's just on a medium heat, and yes, my stove is a horrendous mess from this morning, but that's okay. We'll clean that all up later. It's been about 10 minutes since we put the weight on, and we're already at 5 pounds of pressure. We're not gonna touch the heat. We're gonna leave it right on medium. We've got our weight, and I am at sea level, so I need 10 pounds of pressure, like pretty close to sea level. So there we go. So we just now, it's been about another 10 minutes, got to 10 pounds of pressure. We are jiggling and venting like we're supposed to be. So let's start a timer for 90 minutes. And yes, that is filthy, but we'll clean it in a little bit. So now we wait, and I need to stay close to this and listen to it and monitor it to make sure that nothing happens. You do not want to walk away from a canner. You want to make sure that you're in the area. So I'm gonna bake a cake. We are not quite halfway there. We're still rocking about 11 pounds of pressure, which is perfect. And our jiggler is jiggling just like it's supposed to. My cakes are almost done. I decided to go cupcakes. There we go. I decided while I was in the kitchen, I might as well put together a chicken and vegetable soup. There's my cupcake parfait dessert all done for 4th of July. At the 90-minute mark, shut the canner off and don't touch it until it's cool. It is 7 o'clock. I am just back from my recovery meeting, and it is time. This is nice and cool, cool to the touch. It's time to take it apart. Little tiny release still of pressure, but that's all right. Oh, look a there. Check the seals. Everything's all nice and sealed. Look, we still have water. We had some drainage, but that's okay. Some overflow leakage. That's perfectly fine. Everything looks sealed. The jars are not hot. Just gonna move the jars over here. Bring you right back. Okay, so the word I'm looking for is siphoning. So we did have some siphoning, and that's normal. I'm not gonna worry about it too much. We have 7 beautifully sealed jars. Love it. And in the morning, I'll can the other 7. We ended up with 13 beautiful quart-sized jars of cabbage roll soup that is gluten-free and 1 jar of chicken bone broth. This is a great addition to our prepper pantry and is a perfect shelf-stable meal. Thank you all for watching, and remember, life is an adventure, so enjoy your journey. Bye-bye!